Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Rockin' Token Talking Sunday Sabbath. Sorry, I hope you're got this good to go this time. Hey,
Hey, so we're back.
we are back, and it's the two of us again. I don't know what's happening. Oh man, I'm tired to
Well,
sleep, but
that's
uh,
so funny. It's like we get back in, and it's
exactly the same.
exactly the situation. Yeah. Did you get that message that I sent about Steve having the exact same message come up as I did?
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on now. This used to work so easy, so well. What's
Oh,
good?
I know. Um, I'll give him a minute to come in because
All right.
I got it and came right in as soon as I saw it because
Oh, yay. There he is.
oh, all right, there we go.
So it is working. It's just, yeah, okay.
There we
When it
go.
wants to. Hey, how are
Right.
you?
Hey Kelly, hey Ben.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. How are you two doing?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
It
Good.
seems we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with the Zooms. Last show we had somebody who just couldn't get on. I don't know if that's happening more and more because I send out a lot of invites. People will confirm right up until the moment, and then they're not there. And I'm kind of like, what the heck? And then sometimes they respond after, and sometimes they don't. So it's like, part of me thinks it's either just fear or nerves because they're meeting people, right? Or they just
Yeah.
had something better to do and feel bad and don't want to respond.
I don't like either one of those, really.
No, me neither, man. It sucks. It sucks. Lips was has been talking to me all weekend through chat with Ben, and I was pretty sure he'd be here today, but he usually does only give me that 1 day a week, and it's
Right.
a blessing that he does that. Um, the amount of people that want to meet and come on that show is surprising, but nobody's available at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday, so that's where we're at.
Hey,
Or
well,
not many. Or
that's
not
their
many.
that's their problem. At
Yeah,
least
I know, right? Because it's always a good time, and I think they're shocked when
it
they
is.
they get a mess get in and they experience it. But we wanted to talk about your new song today, I guess, was the theme.
Oh, are you talking about like deep blue? Is that what we're talking about?
I guess so. Is that the song?
What's a new song that we're working on right now? Yeah. Ben just laid down an amazing bass line that is in the pocket of the pocket's pocket.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
we're working on that right now.
And are you guys doing that like, because you're all in Boston? Are you like, getting together? Are you practicing, or are you staying apart?
Everything is remote. We're leveraging the technology that's available to us.
Yeah.
That was something we wanted to talk about today, was because as of 3 days ago, which I've been out and about, nobody's really listening to, we're in our third lockdown, which means we're not supposed to visit with family. We're not supposed to leave our houses. Businesses will close again, except for essential businesses like grocery stores and pharmacies, and that's about it. This is our third lockdown like this, and it's so hard to cope with. Um, I mean, I'm isolated a lot, but like just forced isolation, I think is hard. Um,
One thing. I don't know if you're aware of Kelly. Steve had his second vaccination shot.
yes, good for
We absolutely, like give him an applause. Let's get everybody vaccinated and let's get back
yeah.
when it's safe. When
We
it's
If you go back and watch the first few episodes of our shows when we were talking about the vaccines, and we've covered the whole flow of the thought of the entire psyche of North America and abroad on the fears, it being new, the rules, going through Christmas, and everything changing up until now. And I think people have finally come to the acceptance that this is safe. We need to do it. We need to do that. And I hope we had a part in it. But because of open states allowing people to gather and do their shows, people are going to do it. They're just going to do it because, they need it. They want it. We need it. We want it. And now we're in lockdown, right?
Well, go ahead, Steve.
I'm frustrated.
Kelly, there was a word that you used that we could expound upon, and that word was isolation. I think if you look at this from perspective, this is a global pandemic. This has never happened in any of our lifetimes, and it can go on as long or as short as we let it. Right? So when you talk about isolation, it's very sad that we can't be in the same room safely with other people. It's very sad. But see, sex and witchcraft is the poster child for this concept that isolation is what you make it. Because we haven't been together at all as a group, but we're constantly working on music, constantly in touch with each other, collaborating, being creative. And the reason is we're looking at the vehicles that are available now for us to work together and be together. So the thing, I understand some people have a hard time adapting to that, but Kelly, if everybody would adapt to it, it would be over so much quicker. So the lockdown, we haven't had anything in the United States like what you're having in Canada or my friends in Australia or in Europe. They take it much more seriously, but I think we'd save the world a lot of suffering if, when we had to isolate,
we did it. We followed the rules.
That's beautiful. And instead of focusing on what you can't do, if you focus on what you can do, we can all be very productive during this time. Again, I think Sex and Witchcraft is a good example for that.
I think I'm a really good example of that. I mean, I've done 38 shows now from my bed.
Absolutely.
Today I got up and sat in the chair beside my bed, but I mean, I mean, you can do positive things. You got to break out of the anxiety and reach out and just use the online ways as best you can. But I also know that I don't know if you've heard of this experiment. It's a sad experiment. I don't know how to God they've actually tested it enough to be science. But if you put a newborn baby into an incubator and you fed it everything it needed to live, if you never touched it, it would die. We need human contact in a sense that if we are allowed to gather, that need is so strong right now, we will do it foolishly because we're idiots. And right now, as in a few more weeks, I have more friends who are throwing major concerts one after another where people are coming from state to state, and I understand it.
This is a problem. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is a problem, okay? I am dying to go out there and
we all are
on stage again. I want to be in the audience again. But I think because people have been sort of jumping the gun sporadically in different areas, different places, we keep making a little progress, and then people feel safe, and then we go back, and
now
we have what you guys have, then lockdown, and you can't even go out.
We're talking about like major lockdown here where nothing is open and it's so inconvenient, but also, fines. If you go to your grandma's house on Easter, you're going to be fine. Like, that's a scary thought. Or anybody's house. Or if you gather in more than groups of 5, you're going to be charged by the government. They were thinking about bringing in military action at one point. This is a terrifying thought in Canada. And even though these are some of my friends and they've really angry at me for talking about this, because even though I'm not naming the groups or the people, if you know me, you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? And it's cost me friends, cost me connections because they don't agree with me.
Kelly, it's better to lose friends for being who you are than to gain them for being who you are not.
I love
Amen, brother.
I
Amen.
love you
I
guys.
love
See,
that.
and I'm
Yes.
learning that, as hard as it is to learn those lessons, traveling around, the people who stay, the people who go, the people who come are meant to be. And that's what I truly feel. But it hurts, and talking about these issues should not gain you or lose you friends or fans, because human beings should be able to have two different points of view and still be friends, still look at each other like a human being and say, I guess I don't agree with you, but fuck, I still love you, you dumbass, you know.
Well, Kelly, you can do that, and I can do that, and Ben can do that. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah, I'm learning
And
that.
I don't mind saying that the people that can't do that, if they fall off and they're not in my life anymore, I think I'm better for it. I'd rather be around people that are looking forward for
Yeah.
where we're going as a human race than people that are, everything you talk about the lockdowns. You see, here's what's crazy about it is that it's all well and good for me to say, well, that's the right thing. They should be bringing the military into. But you know what? I haven't actually experienced that. Even what you've experienced in Canada and again, my friends in foreign countries. So it's horrible that it's come to this. But what I think we need more than anything is cooperation across the human race.
And
That's what we
respect.
need now.
And now I brought up an interesting perspective, and I keep thinking about this. We keep forgetting about the poor people in poor countries. What about India? What about Africa? What about all these places? When are they going to get vaccines? And if this is an airborne thing, you're telling me it's not going to kill the whole world if we don't start saving everybody and thinking of everybody as equally important? But that's never going to happen.
But one thing I think that we need is we certainly need, say, redundant solutions. If we're thinking in terms of the whole world, it doesn't work just to say, okay, get the vaccine out. Across the board, across the planet. Really, this is what I'm going with right now, is I need 2 of 3 precautions. They would be vaccination, it would be extreme distancing, or it would be masking. Meaning that if I can have 2 of those precautions, I'll go ahead and I'll interact with vaccinated people that are maybe distant from me but not masked, or vaccinated people masked, or maybe somebody that's distant and masked but not vaccinated. But unless we do that across the board, what you're saying is right. It's death sentence to poor people in poor nations.
And I find it so frustrating. Money is the root of all evil, and frustrating that we need it. And I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a third world country right now, scared. But it's more, yeah, they need vaccines, but they also need food and clothing and water and medicine in general. And that's a sore spot for me. But I think we forget how lucky we are in North America, as many problems as we do have, right? We've got a lot. But I do think that I don't know how to appeal. Like, I don't know how to appeal to the states or to the people. And then if I take away anybody's ability to make a dollar, boy, how would I lose Fred Zed.
Well,
Right?
I think a lot of people made a lot of money in this, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. But I think that as humans, we're able to adapt, and we're living in the best time ever to be able to adapt and to,
Mhm.
adapt at everything.
We
Um,
we got the support behind us of Robert Vines from his record label and doing our comp album, and any music and sex and witchcraft stuff will be on that, of course. But I'm just, as a new record label, or do you have any ideas, how to move forward? I hate the idea of hearing that bands don't own their own music. They can't share their own music. Steve mentioned the other day on the show, oh, well, Eat Your Words, which is a theme song to all of my shows, technically he doesn't own. Like, it's owned by the label and he's still in debt for it from, like, God knows how many years ago. This is something that bothers the heck out of me. Is there a way, do you think, to have a label to share music for everybody to make money and for it not to be owned necessarily solely by a label?
I mean, I can feel that. It's a complicated question you're asking, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
it begins with the an approach. There's two main approaches where you have push marketing and niche marketing. Well, in push marketing, you have this idea that you have something and you're going to sell it to the majority of the population. There was a live album in the 1970s by Peter Frampton called Frampton Comes Alive, and that was an example of push marketing, where they literally advertised that album on commercials during television programs, and they intentionally chose many different types of television programs so that people from all walks of life would be, and then they choose cuts from that album, that would appeal to the. So now, having said that,
he's a pretty easily sellable person to everybody, though, right?
Absolutely. But I'm saying, okay, major record companies engaging in push marketing, that's a relic of the 20th century. Right. In the same way that now, if you wanted to watch a TV show, there are hundreds of channels, not 3. If somebody wants to listen to music, there's so many more options available. So once you move away from this idea of push marketing to a niche marketing approach, then you said, is there, so everybody can make money? Well, the answer is music will no longer be able to support the type of infrastructure that pushed Led Zeppelin.
And we've been talking about this since my first radio show, and I'm learning about how everything works, right? And hearing how sad it is, and why don't the labels support us anymore? Why don't they promote us? Well, there's no money.
But it's not that I don't think that it's sad. I just think it's something, ironically, something that we have to adapt to. And we can either cling to what was, which doesn't exist, or we can. Well, now, I mean, you can market music, and you can market music on many scales. You have to figure out, when you have some music, what scale does it most make sense for us to market this music on? Exactly. If you can figure out, Lips, how you doing? How you doing?
Thank you for joining us today. How are you, brother?
I'm okay.
I'm always glad to see your face. We're talking a little bit about we're going into our 3rd phase of lockdown, right?
Well,
long time already.
Yeah. But I'm going out.
The variants are going to cause mayhem, and we're only at really the tip of the iceberg for it right now, too. Right today in Ontario, we've got 4,500 cases today. They're expecting within a week or two, 10,000 cases a day.
We've exceeded their worst projected levels of what they thought would happen with the variants. So now we're in our 3rd.
I think that they're finally getting to where they actually predicted.
Yeah. It's worse than they predicted.
It is. And it was always going to go because the variants were in place, and the lockdown should have happened a month ago, not now.
And we're talking about the fact that as of right now, I have friends again who are throwing another massive concert, thousands of people, people coming from all over, because that state is allowing them to do it. And we're sitting right here, and as much as they don't want to think there's a direct correlation to these things, there may be.
The thing is, right now, you can't measure what's happening in Toronto and say that's what's happening everywhere. It doesn't work.
No, but because people aren't following the lockdown rules, or the restrictions aren't what they should have been, when they should have been, or whatever, and because people still aren't following them, we're having issues like this, and it's just breaking my heart. I don't really know what to do. I know slowly we're starting to change the minds of people, and we're starting to get out there, and I really hope it does, because I mean, to see something like Toronto just stop dead, to see a city like that, as big and beautiful as it is, and I know you guys are in Boston, it's probably the same thing, to see no cars on the road, no people on the road, no restaurants open, it just hurts so bad.
The only way that we can solve this, and the only way we can get by this, is having that. And honestly, I want to give you guys props for staying in and for following that, because honestly, they just keep opening up things too early, and they just comes back, and people say, "Hey, why did it come back?" Well, it came back because it wasn't. There was no vaccine. There was no proper social distancing methods, and nothing was keeping it in line. People weren't following, and they were getting so itchy that they went prematurely. And it just little pockets of that happen here, happen there, and until that stops, this can go on for years.
And you know, I can
No,
kind of,
that's right, because if you don't lock down properly to begin with, okay, and keep it that way until it's completely gone, it will keep going.
Right
Yeah.
on, man.
Period.
Right on.
And no matter what we do, wear masks, you can do whatever the fuck you want. When people are not following the guidelines, because no one is actually taking it seriously enough in North America. It just isn't.
I am.
I am.
Well,
We are.
you
And
know,
each
I
one
mean,
of us
I
here
don't-
has
I
been
don't leave the
affected by
house.
it.
I'm not talking about that. I'm
I
talking
know.
generally people just don't. My bass player really doesn't think that it's as dire as it is at all. You know,
They
like,
haven't even hit your
people are
band
going
as they watched
they're
our
going
show.
you got the ICUs are filled, and they're going,
Yeah.
shit. The hospitals are empty. The hospitals are empty because they're not the ICUs. They don't
Okay.
want anyone else there.
I want to say something about this. I'm a rare disease patient. I go in, they tell me I can't get into the ICU because of COVID and how backed up it is. You know, I would surely be in the hospital right now, for one thing. For two, the ERs and everything are overloaded. They are, you know, and even before COVID, big city hospitals were overloaded to begin with anyways. And I mean, in Toronto, I keep saying this, if you're healthy, you go in at 8 a.m., have a baby, pop it out before noon, you're going to be out before 4 o'clock. There's no space for anything, let alone this. People don't realize until it hits their family or it hits them personally.
Yeah, well, that's generally human nature, right? You don't do
Fucking
anything until
right,
you're in an
eh?
emergency, and then you worry about it, right?
Yeah, right? And then
Human nature should be thinking about everybody
Everybody
around
else.
you, right?
Yeah.
That would be a good example of human nature. What you're talking about, essentially, what people call human nature, is really just selfishness and stupidity.
And that has become human nature. And would you not consider all of yourselves what you'd say an empath? That you walk around, you feel each other's heartaches and stuff, and you can't help it. That's just who you
Yeah,
are.
but it's a horrible minority.
It is, and it sucks. It hurts.
Put up
Well,
with, but
I think in the music culture, I think
More
music,
prominent.
especially people who are in bands, are so used to reading the other people so closely and spend so many hours feeling the vibes of the other people that they're around, that maybe the music culture becomes a little bit more empathic than, say, the everyday businessman who just sits at his office and at a computer 9 to
I
5.
do think that too.
Good thought.
I also think that metal musicians or fans share this bond of sometimes coming from the most struggled places, the most difficult places, being an introvert, being a weirdo, being called a freak as a kid, just being the outcast, whatever. And we all identify with that part of ourselves in each other, which creates a worldwide family of understanding, right? And I don't think it's just our genre, probably, but I think it's really heavy in our genre, right? Because the people who write the music and the people who listen to the music identify with the content, and the content deals a lot with struggle and strife and whatever, angst.
Oh, I agree.
Right?
Kelly, it's like what you're saying is that music makes people better people.
Oh, fuck
I
yeah.
agree with that 100%.
I keep saying you're angels. I think if there is such a thing, they were put in the form of fucking musicians and artists, and that's why we don't see you glowing. But I keep
sometimes
saying
I actually think that there is some kind of universe connection that I really can't explain. Like,
Me too.
sometimes I'll sit down, I'll look at an empty computer screen on my my word processor, and I've got to create lyrics for a song, and I don't know where to even begin, and all of a sudden you get a,
Do
you
it.
don't know where the thought came from, and
Yeah.
you got first verses written, and you're going, where the fuck did I get that from?
Exactly. And I ask artists this all the time because I'm a visual artist and, I draw and I'm like, where did that just come from? Like, and sometimes I'll find my old drawings in a box or something, go through them and went, I did that? What?
I mean, I could
Yeah.
fit in. I smoke a doob, start fucking jamming
Yeah.
while I'm recording. I record, I don't know, 10, 20 riffs, 2-3 days. I come back and I don't remember a fucking thing I played.
Exactly.
And then I play it back and I go, wow, what the fuck is that?
And
Where
where
did
did
that
it come from? And
Lift. It's like you're channeling something.
Exactly.
You're talking about, and
Exactly.
you can be composing music or improvising music or writing lyrics or this thing you're talking about when something comes from nowhere. Well, it did come from someplace. You're channeling something that none of us can see. I'll tell you, and
know.
to me, that's beautiful. You enrich the world when you do that.
Now, I always wonder why that energy comes to the people it does, why it chooses the people it does. Because wherever it comes from, it picks you and says, you're going to change the world with this and you're going to do that. And you're like, holy crap, what just happened? It came through me and I made it. Right.
I think that
You were
we as musicians
chosen.
choose. I think we choose to do this. I think
I think it's being open to that channeling.
Do you guys believe in destiny? Do you believe in fate?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And my page is an example of it because I knew and foresaw this 2 years ago and nobody would believe me and everybody laughed at me and here it is. So, I really hope it came with lots of big concerts and stuff, but COVID, all that. But I mean,
People,
here it is.
It's interesting because, the things that have happened to me in my career, a lot of things went awry and badly, but at the end of the day, it was like all of a sudden I realized they did because that's the way they were supposed to go. Because at the end, it took this huge right turn and it exemplified all the bad fucking shit. And
Now
so and it actually now you deserve your desserts at the end, right?
So beautiful that you're
you get
saying that.
The good vibes have been adding up and it comes your way.
Were they the worst
Because
experiences
you
too?
have to put up with so much bad shit.
Yeah, and they were the hardest lessons and they were the
Yeah.
worst experiences. And then 6 months, a year down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's how I met that person or went there. And it's all connected. It's all connected, right? And the more I look on my page, the 6 degrees of separation between thousands of people around the world just shock me every day that they know each other, worked with each other.
Oh yeah, that's a thing
just
that
crazy.
we all don't, that a lot of people
Beautiful.
take into consideration, and part of it is because you don't travel or get around enough. But when you do, you come to realize, hey, we're all on this planet at the same time. And if you're traveling around, you're going to meet people that know you.
Yeah.
Or somebody else you knew.
Well,
It's just the way it works. It's just the way it works. If
You know-
you're not going to experience those things. But for someone like me, I could be, I met somebody in Germany, and the next thing I know, I see them on the street in Japan.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's you. That's your life. That's not most
Yeah,
people's lives, but
I mean, what are the chances? There's billions of people in Japan. How are you going to walk into somebody you know from
fair
Germany?
enough. Fair enough.
You know what I'm
Because
saying? But the thing is, and that I'm trying to explain is that we're on the planet at the same time, both alive,
Yes.
right.
run into each other. Because
Right.
especially if these people travel, you can be anywhere.
I think the beautiful thing is I've done it digitally. I've done it from either a room or a bed, and I've met thousands of people, and they're all connected. And we were talking about COVID isolation and how we can move forward and use the tools of the internet differently, how to, market and advertise music differently. We're doing a new compilation with the new record label, and how does that new record label change the face of the industry? How do we keep the music in the hands of both the label and the artist? So like, let's say, you can use your own songs, you can use your own music, and the label has the right to do so too. You know, how do we keep it shared between the people? How do we keep the money shared between the people? And then how do we get it out in a new platform? And these are questions
You know, Kelly, one of the things that we were saying earlier about the big change in music from how it used to be, you know, say the 80s when they had these super groups and the record companies were paying for the,
Yeah.
or going back to the 70s, like he was talking about with Frampton Comes Alive being advertised on TV to the football games and to the sitcom shows and to a whole huge group of people. We're not going to have that anymore. But what we do have is now we have more of an ability to have more control over our music, more micromanage it, and we
But
may.
then when you have control of it, you don't have the backing of your label promoting it. You don't have the backing of your label making your merch. And then you've got small bands who can't afford it. And then they crumble. And then we lose maybe a good iconic band because they couldn't have afforded to pay for their own promotion. Right? I mean, the whole industry is messed up, right? Right? We
It's
need
changed.
The two things, Kelly. One, when you say the industry is messed up, we can say the industry is evolving. You know, and as we talked about before, it's this the push marketing of the 1970s and 80s is gone. That's
it's gone.
but it's evolving, and there's ways. What I said before, I stand by, is that wherever somebody Anvil is legendary. But the thing is that maybe it's just a matter of figuring out right now what is the most effective way, Lips, for Anvil to move forward. And if we know that what existed in the 70s doesn't exist, then not only it can't be that, and also it might not be exactly like it. So, when you talk about collaborating with people, you talk about a big record company, they have all these, they can invest in a group, but you have to figure out what level of investment is going to make the most sense, what is going to work out best for everybody. The one thing I was saying before that's absolutely sure is that when you have a record company where there's thousands of people working for that record company, that's not going to work. Maybe that would work for Aerosmith right now, but very few bands. Well, that Lips said something earlier though that I just wanted to just call back, was when you said this thing about like we're all living out of all the history of the human race. We're brothers and sisters. We're living in the same time. This is our time. And everything you said about COVID, I think the more that we can relate to like everybody that's around right now, we are bonded together. And the more that we respect that, the more that we'll make decisions that will get rid of the virus.
Yeah. Well, there's
that's
that.
right. When you start thinking about what I do affects my brothers and my sisters,
Yes.
then you fucking you don't think twice, and you don't go out without a mask, and you go get your fucking shot.
It's
Right.
funny.
Right on, man. Right
I
on.
was saying they were
Most
brother
people
and
don't
sister.
think that way. It's like it's all about me. I'm not going to get sick, so fuck you, fuck the world.
Yeah, exactly. There is that attitude, and I just I don't understand it. I don't. I've been using the word brother and sister since I was young. Maybe it was being raised by a biker dad or whatever. I don't know. But across my pages, I get criticized for it a lot, and I really do mean it. If I call you brother or sister, I think of you as my
But
family.
people don't like that because then they feel as though they're being put on the spot to be reciprocate.
They don't have to. It's just how I feel. I'm gonna call the girl at the store sister, the guy at the fucking bank brother, because we are all fucking human. Gosh darn it, did Bama.
If we'd all reciprocate,
Yeah.
it would be a lot better for everybody. It'd be better for everybody. Everybody would benefit. Where is I'm thinking about this group. Pink Floyd has lyrics in his song Dogs, and he's talking about this, it seems to you the things you do would be to isolate the winner. So there's this thing that you can do where you push people away from you, and maybe you benefit in some way in the short term. But Pink Floyd's lyrics, the things you do would be to isolate the winner. And for that reason, this idea of people not wanting to reciprocate love when you call them your brother and your sister, like, what is wrong with that? Kelly, I said before that there's some people whose energy, I'm just better off without it. Yeah. And people that want to fight against brother and sister, let's work together, yeah. I'm better off without those people.
Or the comment was, how could you use the words brother and sister or love when you've only met somebody once. Okay, it takes one conversation, one look in someone's eye, 5 minutes to sit down and sit with them to say, holy fuck, I love you as a human being. How simple is that? I've done it with so many people. I sit on the street with homeless people, do it all the time. It doesn't matter what station you're in. It's eye to eye, soul to soul, human to human. Takes 5 minutes to figure out if you got a soul.
Well, if everybody felt that way, there would never have been a war.
No shit,
On a one-to-one basis, very few people don't get along. We're all human beings. We all have the same fucking problems. So
No shit.
But when you close off your communication and you assume things about everybody else, they turn into realities and then hatred. So
okay, so what are we fighting over? The same things we've always fought over: resources of food, resources, money. Right? The necessities of life. The poorer countries always worrying over the things they need, and us, defending what we have.
The only thing I'd say, Kelly, the term resources, that's not really what we're fighting over. I'll tell you what we're fighting over is hoarding. Okay? The resources aren't the problem. We have enough on this planet that everybody should be reasonably comfortable with nobody homeless, nobody starving. Everyone has some level of medical care. We have the resources. Yeah, but the resources are it's hoarding. Hoarding is the problem. And you know what?
That's greed.
It's
and
greed.
You're never going to get the rich to say, I'll take less to give them more. You'll never do it. You'll never get the billionaires to say, I'll settle with a tiny 1-bedroom apartment if that's what everybody else has, because that ain't going to happen.
But they don't even need to. There's some of these companies, some of these people even just gave a percentage that lives wouldn't change in any way.
Right, yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a statistic that, and I'm going to get 99% exact this statistic right, and it goes like this. If you took all the billionaires in this world, and you took all the resources they have beyond $1 billion, that could pay for healthcare in the United States for the next 75 years. It could pay for cradle-to-grave education for everyone. It could end homelessness. It could end starvation. And everybody that has more than $1 billion still has $1 billion. What are they going to do with $1 billion, right?
A lifetime.
It's hoarding.
I want to say something on this absurdity. The family that I was married to that abandoned me first, that made me start reaching out to musicians because I knew they were the ones that the man couldn't fucking touch, are multi-billionaires who are in the media or news industry. Okay? They told me nobody would support your charities. Nobody would care. And it's too embarrassing. So, and it is still with love that I hope this show reaches them to show them that it's not embarrassing. Disability is not a shame, that the world does care, and that my little girl should see all of this. And every show you guys do are teaching them that. Whether it takes 20 years for them to be smacked in the face with it, I don't care. It will make a difference because you're saying exactly that. And the funny thing is, these people have traveled to every country in the world, met every politician, royal, and everything. They go to places like India and put their blinders on, walk through, go to the fanciest places, step over the poor, and they've got, and they say, well, if I cared, I'd have nothing.
Well, there's no basis of truth in that fear.
Right.
That's greed. That's greed. It's hoarding. You need to get into the hoarding part, right?
You should have seen me take these people to Walmart.
This is the thing that you got to keep in mind. The more wealthy and the more you have, that says a lot about the actual psyche of the person that did this.
Yes.
They're not going to be fucking empathetic, and they're not going to be generous. They're only going to be all they care about is their body.
Now, I want to say, I think
my child is going to grow up in that world, and then my child will see this one day, and then my child will walk the world, and then she'll watch it again, and then she'll realize more, And she'll, 10 years time, she'll be like, holy crap, my mother was the wisest person that ever lived. And I'll be like, yeah, one person, if it reached one person.
We need to use central organization to mandate a certain level of generosity for all people.
Amen, brother.
Amen. Happy Sabbath, everybody. I can't tell you guys. I interviewed you guys, and there was something about, I think it was because Ben stole the show and like got all quotey with one of my favorite bands there with Therion. Right? Remember that? And I don't know who's winning that challenge of who's making the next record first, but since that day, you guys, I was like, they need to be co-hosts. And ever since then, you guys have just been stellar. So thank you so much.
Thank
Steve,
you.
I don't know what in the world gave you this incentive to help me from day one, but thank you, brother. I don't know what it was that made you decide to do this.
Okay, we got less than a minute, so
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. I appreciate you all. Thanks so much, Kelly. Thanks, Lips. Thanks, Ben. You rule.
Thank you, Lips.
No problem.
Thank you,
man.
Steve. Thank you, Kelly.
All right. Happy Sabbath. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.